Listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. So there's a lot of overinflation of self all across the world, including in law enforcement, intelligence, corporations. The idea of self-importance is much overinflated and overrated, quite frankly. So they believe that what they're doing is this ultra important, this protection of the community, but there's no way that they could actually believe it without lying to themselves. That's the bottom line. It's criminal enterprise. I guess my a little bit of a thing going on there. I got to get to the screen on always. I don't know why it went off, but there it is. But it's on. So this idea that they're so important and what they're doing is so necessary is a lie. But I think it's a willful lie with knowledge that they're lying. They're actually causing people to have psychological issue, to be violent and to act out violently. Again, I will never physically move against anyone. But that's their goal, and it frustrates them. And it's their goal, and it frustrates them because they've done it to other people. And these methods that they use, again, wasn't it crazy that he says psychological warfare and spycraft and psychological torture? That's the terminology at the location and places that they took it from and then repackaged it as being something well and nice and protective of the community. And what they do in the end is they call somebody a dirty criminal or a dirty molester or something like that and say, well, we're protecting all of you from it. And even if we're not protecting you from it, that person should pay. It's a scam because your dirty molesters and your dirty rapists are actually in your police departments, as well as in the corporate positions, including President of the United States, etc. I mean, I'm not that far off base, am I, on anything I'm saying? But when they're in your mind, you go somewhere else. Why? Because you're being willfully ignorant. Because you were made rich based upon their system. But the bigger picture is, if you fought their system and brought on the real system, everybody would be richer. And then they'll say, well, the N-word person this. The N-word person would be more powerful. In fact, more empowers the N-word people. But yet you have people like Lois Lerner that was a Democrat, and she was fake. She would believe that, she was here to rule people, and, she was here to take care of the N-word people as a gifted person. In other words, they were less than she was. So again, the entire thing, how you doing, that's going on is worse than an illusion, worse than a fabrication. It's a criminal enterprise, and it's, it's dumbed down. They go, what do you mean crimes against humanity? They tried to say that about our soldiers. Again, that's using it corruptly. So crimes against humanity is real. And, you get to commit those crimes against humanity. You get to commit those felonies because you're theoretically in the power position. But I call that the powerless position. You are powerless to stop yourselves from engaging in such activity because you're afraid of the system that pushes you to do it. But it doesn't make you a victim because you're victimizing. So this is the day that God made for me to move into my apartment. There were others, and they were missed, and things happened with that. So again, when I pointed to Pennsylvania state police officers getting shot, they get, you anti-policeman. No, this is the reality. There is a God, and that's where I'm speaking from. I'm speaking from that platform. And Pennsylvania state police are part of what you're doing. And I've told you all along, anywhere in the chain where God can hit, God will hit. Do I believe it is good for Pennsylvania police officers to get shot? No, but if they engage in that activity, that is the karma of the situation. That is the sin reaction. So again, what I speak about is to keep you from doing that so that won't happen. Again, don't point at the messenger, don't point at the prophet and say that's the problem. That's an age-old quandary. Now, of course, you'll say, well, if you were my church prophet, if you were my church messenger. I just got done speaking with somebody, and he's a little bit unbelieving, but yet believing. He questions belief. He says he has faith, but he has simply faith in certain things. But he questions his faith because you have faith, I have faith, but our faith is different. And I said, well, faith is a gift of God. You can't have faith without God. We don't have faith. It's God getting through and giving you faith. So I tried to explain seeing to him, and he goes, well, I don't think that's a presentation of God up there. Now, based upon the conversation him and I had, that the rays were shining down, I know that was God because I can see. So I didn't get too in depth into seeing, but had a conversation with him, and he kind of believed in the sheep and the goats because he wanted to say that the Bible doesn't really make sense to him to a certain degree. He was, grew up Catholic, and he had a question about a Jewish friend of his not believing in Jesus when he was around 18, and he went in and spoke to the priest and said, if my friend is Jewish and doesn't believe in Jesus, is he going to hell? And the priest said yes, and he said that was probably the last time he was in church. And I said, but the Bible does give the sheep and the goat, which is what he believes. He believes in the sheep and the goat. He believes that if you are good to people, then you'll get somewhere. And he says, even if you don't go to heaven when you leave the body, he says you still, help people and did the right thing. So again, he's like a sheep and a goat guy. So like if I was writing scripture about that situation, I would write, Larry and the sheep and the goat guy. And the woman at the well. But I told him this. He's having trouble believing in Jesus because, there's other myths and stories around that same thing. I said, yes, but that was the physical manifestation. But he said, well, there's people that had miracles. Right. Again, if you listen to Jesus and you listen to the story around him, the church is teaching it wrong because they talk about other people that could heal and all those type of things. And when Jesus came, times were changing again, like we have now corruption. We have criminality. We have spies. And they're defrauding all of you because a certain percentage of those crimes that they say you need them to protect you from, they are causing using criminal spycraft. I was denied apartments. I have no criminal record. I do not and have not engaged in crime. There is no reason to withhold an apartment from me. What does that tell me? That tells me that Johnson County is Nazi and KKK, whether it's black, white, yellow, red, or indifferent. Because that's the type of people that do that. In the real world, each one of those places that did that owes me $1 million. You can't hide behind a police officer. You altered the rental experience. They have no right to alter. It's just like the church. The church has no right to alter the church experience. And then when I react to it, you say, see? Well, God said to me one thing. He said, F that like 70-year-old man or 75-year-old man and F his wife. He sat there and told me a story about him and his wife while I was there being all folksy, and then passed a spycraft torture, psychological torture method from some police officer, most likely. Corrupt police officer, bound for hell. Now, if you can listen, and listen honestly, you will hear from FBI agents, you will hear from, on this topic that I'm about to discuss, and the topic that I'm discussing, you will hear from marshals, you will hear from sheriff's department people, you will hear from police officers that will say, if I knew somebody was doing that to me, I would freak out. There's just, you're not going to let somebody manipulate your housing situation for free. They're not going to live in that or my head for free. In fact, they should be so afraid of doing that that they fall over dead if they think about it again. No, God's very mad at those people because they lived good lives, or good enough lives, again. The real good enough life, not the life I'm living. The illusion that they cause around me, like, oh, he's in Naples. You know what they use Naples for? You know why I was stuck there, really? Because people from all these other police departments that were corrupt, that were part of this thing, including the Marshal Service, would get vacations down to Florida when they had to look and see what was going on in my life. Which means I would look like I was going to meet a woman. Oh, emergency! Come down here, we're doing something weird. That's really what they do. And I explained to the man that I was speaking to earlier, I said, you know, the sheep and the goats man, or the goats and the sheep man, the parable of the sheep and the goats man. I said, you know, the church was evil. He goes, yeah, it's evil. I said, but it operated me psychologically while all I was trying to do was go to church. They had bait women and all these things, and I did my best to ignore them. Did I get turned on? Of course, that was their job. That's what they were going to get paid $2,000, $3,000 for doing. They were in. But I never acted it out, even one little iota. And that's all that can be asked of a man that's being essentially Jezebeled, Delilah'd, and whore of Babylon by the government itself, including the church itself. But I said, you know, what you don't know and what you're not seeing is Jesus foretold the church. He called it the synagogue of Satan. That's the modern day church. All of it. Jesus was not pro-police at all. At all. Not telling you to be anti-police, but yet there is a line that needs to be drawn. And I've illustrated that over the years for you, over and over again. Thank you, Mary. They try to intimidate you with their big mansion churches, right? Yeah, that's a sign of Satan. That's a sign of taking the mark. Every one of those nails that you used to build those mansion churches and be the son of a guns you are was re-crucifying Jesus and nailing him to that cross with each one of those nails, because that money was better spent somewhere else. But of course, if you didn't build that, I imagine you to put it in your own bank accounts like you do. Those curses are real. Now, God will will pick the time and place to effectuate them, if at all. So again, you can appease God, but that's going to take a lot, because we're pretty much at the end of the ability to search for an apartment. Well, Rose Hill and what was the other one? Lennox of Olathe are criminal at this point, criminal and demonic. I don't care if they're your snitch or whatever it is. I have no idea what your relationship with them is, or partners, I guess. But they're criminal and demonic. And no, they don't get a pass. They know better. They get in the middle of a housing situation. They've got lawyers, but yet they do it. Why? Because you told them you wouldn't arrest them for it. And they wouldn't get in trouble for it. And proved it to them over the years. Don't try to turn this around that it's my fault, all of you. It doesn't work. I'm not one of your people that is so far gone when you do this to them. And then they come out of the place and do something, and then you do your psychological hold. That already am being briefed by the angels and God on what your intentions are and what you've done here to disabled people in the name of holiness and law enforcement and safety. All bullshit. Every last one of you. And everything you say is garbage that should have been thrown into trash and shit that you are before I even got here, if you were worth anything to God. Gotta heal these people. Heal in the name of Jesus. Don't look at me. You're the ones that created such a hellish place as Johnson County. I don't think this was here 50 years ago. You people here today are responsible for what's occurring here. And it's not safety. Yeah, a place like Olathe with that many shootings. People pulling guns and going crazy. You all get off on it. Oh, you need us. It's like Munchausen by proxy, but much more satanic. And I guess your judges cower because the CIA comes in and makes them afraid if they say anything. You begin to understand why God is not a respecter of persons when we see all of you. I know if I went into church, I'd have some young girlie swinging her ass in front of me in church. And after they got done turning me on with young girlies all day, a guy they isolated and sexualized and tried to trigger for 30 years at a minimum, most likely more, 34 or so. They would bring young children and then place them all around me while moving incantations and spells. That's what your government is. The rest is an illusion. But they're only testing me. It has nothing to do with attempting to crosswire and rewire, as instructed in the CIA school and OJT operations, because they renamed it and repackaged it. That's why it's not that, right? Why? Because they're criminals and they don't want to go to prison. Google, Facebook, Twitter, all criminals. Narcotics users, sex traffickers, going to rule the world by arresting the competition. The other sex traffickers, the other narcotics distributors. Same game the cops are playing. Boy, it's a little sweaty today. God is not mocked is a big statement that you all need to understand. Now, they will use it against the favorite hater. You know, again, people of color should understand that the people that are LGBTQ, some, there's good people and bad people everywhere. But they're treating them and playing that game that they used to play against people of color. But they still do also. But they're the new. You know. If you go back through history, George Washington wrote a letter to Catholics saying that I hope one day that you would be respected members of our community. So again, you go through history, it's crazy. So each and every one of us has a reason to be thankful, but yet people are consistently coming against their neighbor and harming their neighbor. That's not an option. That's why the planet's being destroyed. That's why the timing is over. This planet is not going to cool. It's going to destroy itself. Could be a century, I don't know. But humans will not be able to live. Elon Musk will not save you. I mean, just the idea of him trying to harness such a fossil fuel engine without saying, well, let's give that up and get somewhere else, will tell you he's not going to do it. It's too bombastic. It's going to destroy itself. They don't have the material on the planet to build that rocket that can harness that and take somebody to Mars. But there are ways probably to leave the planet. I mean, he could get there, but I think it's too dangerous. I think people will be killed. But again, who is Elon Musk? A guy that likes to use drugs. So what's his game? Crooked cops are okay. We don't like honest cops. This is what's leading the nation. Trump, what's his deal? Crooked cops are okay. We don't like honest cops. McCarthy, what's his deal? Well, the only cops we don't like are IRS. McCarthy's a tax cheat, I bet you. But you're not going to do anything, right? Because he's in, right? So again, all the people are actually tax cheats. They go, well, what are your crime more? I didn't commit the crimes that Trump committed, like he had sex with kids and raped women. That's the boss of the cops, the big boss, Trump. Mr. Rape women and have sex with kids. And I'm sure Trump's a pedophile at this point. So they started this by trying to say that I had sex with my kids. This is where they started it. So of course everybody's cursing me off and treating me poorly. I don't know if they still say it, but I don't think they can. I mean, I've proved it that it wasn't true. Meanwhile, people that had sex with their kids were what? Probably investigating me. However, definitely were out there as snitches and other things. Again, we're limited in what we can show you because there's only so much that gets into the news and so much that's actually investigated and charged. We go to the Ghost organization in Santa Fe. I told you that was there, where the pedophiles were actually trying to put pedophile labels on other people. So we know that it exists. We know it most likely exists here. No, none of them are honest. I doubt it. I mean, why would they be honest when they know they're depriving somebody and torturing somebody into crime? Why would that entity, whether it's Neighborhood Watch or a law enforcement or an intelligence thing or a private sector thing, be honest? Because that's not an honest effort. No, you don't say, well, that person's already that, and we're drawing them out. You're torturing the person into it. There's a large gulf between torturing somebody into it and bringing somebody out. And again, that level of manipulation is criminal against anybody. All right, the thunderstorm is creeping in. You're all creeping in, too. You're a bunch of creeps, all of you. You're a bunch of weirdos. What they try to do is put it on their victims. They try to twist their victims into something strange. They're a bunch of weirdos. I investigated them for decades, and that's what they're pissed off about. If you weren't there and I was living my life, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, these people are living at the level of God on this planet. They're deciding who gets to be this, who doesn't get to be this, who has to be a criminal. But because they allowed you to have some money, you think it's a good idea, you'll go to hell with them. The Bible speaks of that. Well, the church doesn't believe it more. The church is it. Drop it, all of you. You're the synagogue of Satan. Quit calling yourselves a church. Jesus never used the word church. Jesus never used the word church. But if they use the term that Jesus used, then it means something completely different. And it's definable as not the church. So the synagogue of Satan, Pontius Pilate, Herod, the Roman centurions, Pilate were denying me an apartment by interfering with the process. They'll say, well, we didn't deny you an apartment. You just have to push through. That's bullshit. Number one, it's called depletion. If you study that sex cult, was it MVIXM or MVXIM? That's how they sexualize members of the sex cult. The FBI knows about that because they investigated and prosecuted. I believe they were operating for somebody. Could have been CIA, but they stepped over a line and got arrested. In other words, they were there to sexualize people, but they wanted sexualized so they could blackmail them and extort them and manipulate the communities around them because they were powerful. But what they do is they push somebody in one direction while blocking them from going in that direction, and that depletes them. Requiring strict obedience. Again, the officers saying, we're not saying anything. We're just, it's a spycraft operation, but it also includes witchcraft. And you know you're saying something. I'm receiving messages all day related to what you're doing, and it's spycraft and it's psychological torture and psychological. It's trying to hypnotize my mind into something. And again, well, this proves he's crazy. We got to do a psychological. Well, brother, if you wouldn't say anything, if I wouldn't say anything, I'd be dead. John Lewis didn't say anything, and he's dead. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jonathan Lewis didn't say anything, and he's dead. Wake up and quit lying. Assistant Director Dudley of the U.S. Marshal Service, he's dead. He didn't say anything, and he's dead. Bustamante, he didn't say anything. They turned him into a thief, and he's dead. Deputy U.S. Marshal, criminal investigator, great fugitive hunter. He's dead because he didn't say anything. So when they tell you not to say anything, oh, you're trying to kill me. If I don't say anything, I'm dead. And you're rich, right? So you don't care. You just laugh. I'm going to have a Bronco next year. Bill Scott, he said something. He died anyway. But he didn't say enough. That's what happened. But he didn't know enough. Again, back then, I could have been dead. My car would have went off the road if I was going anywhere over 40 miles an hour. I'd have been through, maybe even 30. I did it, flipped it like 10 miles an hour, if that. It's like we didn't know how bad it was. So I'm supposed to just move into an apartment or it makes me paranoid? Fuck you and fuck your family. How about that? Because that's what you just said. Plus you did that 20, 30 years ago. Probably 20 through 30 years ago. They play this game. Oh, families are off limits. Oh, yeah, right. You see what they do to the kids of people that they do this to, including my kids. I mean, my kids ended up in a bad life. Nothing I could do. Twisted their heads so far. I know for a fact at this point, they're, but it's not going to happen, can it? Right. Well, they have internal thoughts. Oh, God, I can hear those. But it's never going to fix. Not something they would probably say to anybody. Again, it's the idea if you're transgender at 12, you're probably not going to detransition at 20. Oh, no. A lot of stuff was done to them as children by the government, along with my ex-wife, that brainwashed them. So again, a lot of the people who did this to me have big jobs, big money, and boy, they won, didn't they? They won a free trip to hell. That's what they really want. Again, it's hard to understand that here. It's hard to visualize. It's hard to conceptualize that somehow my life was worth it because I'm not going to hell. When they get to hell, there'll be a full and voluminous understanding. Boy, it's going to be nice tomorrow. Our rain finally came. I think it's going to rain several times tonight. It's supposed to be nice. And it's supposed to be between like 85 and 93 for the next couple of weeks, which is really a nice weather pattern. They make all these bullshit rules while they kill people. That's what kills people, when you try to abide by their rules. Don't say anything. Okay. Oh, no. When you start saying, whoa, look at the evidence we got. It's really not evidence. And most likely, most of my assistance has been shredded, if it was ever recorded. So it's a scam that I said they may have used on that CIA guy. The CIA guy. The only thing is he took money. It's a hard one to overcome. But I can see the CIA putting him out, forcing him to resign, but based upon making it a shitty workplace or something, right? And then him trying to work with them on a case, and then they arrest him and say, "Oh no, nobody else was involved." That's one of their scams. I mean, they tried to use it on me a ton of times. So again, what they consider danger is that my life would normalize. That I meet a woman and even just be a friend. Again, I'm not, looking to get married to every woman I meet, although every woman I meet, I could marry. I mean, it's generally, if God makes it happen, then it happens, right? Oh, so God doesn't want you to marry. No, God wanted me to get married. So all those women you thwarted, each and every one of them is you thwarting God's attempts for my marriage day. Now, I was never married, actually. I was asleep. So that's another part of that mechanism. Like if you look in the Bible, if your wife cheats on you, then you get to get rid of her. Pretty much. It's what it says. My wife cheated on me a whole bunch of times. But I was never awake. God said, if you're not spiritually awake and your marriage goes bad, you're not indebted to that asleep. So that'd be interesting if Moses had a wife who was Egyptian. Does the Bible say that? I don't think it does. But he might have. And when they put him out of Egypt, how you doing? When they put him out of Egypt, he may have left his wife. I mean, he was an pretty older guy, 40 years old. Sure, he was most likely married or had a good. So God told me that If you're not spiritually awake, because you're possessed in the marriage. Again, you have to be possessed in marriage. If you're not spiritually awake and you get into a marriage and it's not, again, a possession, then, there's probably some cohesion there. I was pretty much possessed in the marriage, into marrying the person I married. And I felt very sorry for her. So, again, there was some of that too. They tried to stimulate that using spycraft with the woman I help on the street. But no way. They got it once. I kind of felt it. And then when I got my injury, she hung up on me and told me I don't want to talk to you again. It was just like some real crazy stuff. And I'm like, well, can't depend on her for nothing. Laying in bed sick, she'll put a gun to my head and take my check for the next 10 years, and they'll find my body here all mummified. That's pretty much what they want. That's why they were pushing that. Because they know they can trigger her. But she's homeless by their efforts. They did to her what they're doing to me. And they did something to her mind where she doesn't need a government program. I don't know if they told the preacher to preach it. Probably multiple things. Right. But she doesn't need a government program. But you're asking Larry for $400 every couple months. Larry's not the government's richer than Larry, and so is the church that told you that you don't need a government program. But you gave money to. So again, they're not protecting anybody. Well, the lightning kind of simmered down, but it is starting to cool. A little bit warm, humid. These are not imaginations. These are not insanities. This is who you all are in reality. They're heinous evil. Heinous evil. Me cursing you is a blessing of God. How about that? Do you understand that reciprocation, all of you? And God's, like I told you, God's judging you. God's protecting the community by me cursing you. And that's actually real. Those crooked government people, those crooked private sector people that are harming their neighbor with psychology and all that crazy stuff, when they get cursed, that's what actually protects the community. They say when they're doing that to their neighbor, that they're testing their neighbor and protecting the community. Or in the end, they're offing a bad guy. In reality, me cursing those that are part of it, no, you don't try to hold yourselves out as the salvation of our nation or your community or yourselves or you're confused. Don't hold out like that. You're Satan incarnate and you love it. When it comes along, it empowers you, makes you rich, makes you feel like you can destroy your neighbor with one word, one fabrication, one lie, one false statement. That man was on this earth probably 75 years ago. I forget how old he was. The guy I was talking about that was in the military seemed nice enough. It was a scam. That way, if I had a camera or recording, it would sound like he was a nice person. God said if he didn't learn all those years a lesson not to do that, then F him and F his wife, whether it be 95 or 85 or whatever. I told you, God's here in the spirit body. It's a little bit different than your little church. Your church. Actually, it's the synagogue of Satan, as foretold by Jesus. I told the guy, I said, that's Jesus Nostradamus. He said the synagogue of Satan would be here. That's the church. That's the truth of Nostradamus Jesus. But nobody going to talk about it. How about Newsweek? Newsweek, you want to do that? Time? Talk about the church. Say that must be the synagogue of Satan that Jesus was speaking about. It's like Nostradamus. They like talking about Nostradamus. Talk about Nostradamus Jesus and talk about the church. How evil it is. How it makes money off the back of its neighbor while enslaving them to drugs, sexuality, homosexuality also. Again, if you're gay, nothing against you, but the church is busy making you gay. Inside, the ravenous wolves, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, antichrists, demons, devils. That's Satan's game. Cause somebody to fall and then judge them downward and put them in hell on earth because they're what you say they shouldn't be while you made them that to begin with. Oh, I'm admitting that I'm gay? No, not at all. Am I playing you in that you're trying to make me gay and I'm trying to make you believe I'm gay? Of course. But that doesn't mean you get an out for anything with you. But of course, you know I'm not gay. That's why you keep the women away. Remember, I'm an angel of God. My ability to present an undercover role is much larger than any of you. It's so deep that you have no clue what's happening around you. How you doing? I was trying to figure out who the ranger was that was over here. There's another ranger that was staying here. It's like, theoretically, there's 2 rangers and a sapper here at a minimum. Thank you. So again, that would be a movement of God, bringing his kings and his power here. You're warring us, all of you. I'm not speaking about grabbing a gun and shooting anybody or grabbing a knife and stabbing someone or beating anybody up or anything like that. In fact, this is the war we waged in the Persian Gulf with Saddam. It was a spiritual war. God put his kings online and rolled us into Iraq. You're all nobodies. That's why you can't win anything, or you have a half-ass thing that you call a win. I tried to lead you to the promised land, but you killed me. Oh, we got people like him. No, you don't. Quit lying to yourselves. Everything you did was you stole from him and was powered by him. That's their whole scam. Is there lightning somewhere? I guess it's just wind. I'm trying to hear if that was thunder. Wind's starting to pick up. Clouds are slowly rolling in, but it's not really that heavy. Imagine if I looked at the radar at night. What time is it? Okay, I would walk a little bit more. Should drink some water. I'm trying to get back on a bicycle. God's jacking y'all around. Has nothing to do with me. He made me look like I was dying. I thought I was dying. I don't know. I got healed here. Again, it's no help of what you're doing now. So again, if you had your way, and what they're trying to do is make me sick again. That's another part of it. Again, if I tell you this is what they're doing, everything I say they're doing, they're doing. Who else is here? I wish there's somebody else is here. I feel it. 2 rangers, a sapper leader, and who else? Now this guy feels like this guy's something. I've seen him a couple times. Mr. Drill Tech. That's his work truck. I can't see nothing on it. No, I love women, and women love me when we have relationships, but they destroyed everything. I'm seeing this woman over here to heal. I think it's the one guy's wife. He don't like me. Probably because I was law enforcement. That guy I was speaking earlier was a felon, and he didn't have a problem. But some people hold a grudge. Again, God's not a respecter of persons. Being a felon means nothing to God. Being a cop means nothing to God. Again, that's Satan's game. Puffing your chest out and beating your chest because you got a badge and a gun. Or you're over in Afghanistan, Iraq, torturing people. Thank God we protected you and didn't put you in prison for your sanity. I mean, others did, but some of us, we saved some people. You come back here and try to kill us. Healed in the name of Jesus. I'm seeing a couple people that, they just moved in. I'm trying to keep them healed. They're coming down here from Kansas City, and it was pretty bad for them up there. They're really happy to be here. They're happy that Walmart is closed. It's kind of simple friends. Healed in the name of Jesus, simple friends. Remember, they spoke to me kindly. See, the hidden reality of what's happening. They'll go to heaven, man. Why? Because God just said that. And you have to get with the Bible how it progresses. Again, politics, liberals. No, progresses is a term. It's a word, an English word, and the Bible progresses in certain manners. And one of the statements in the Bible is God says that God will do with what he wants with people. If God wants to do something good for people, let him do it. So again, there is evidence that the Native American supreme being is God in the Bible. It's not necessarily, it's not Jesus. So again, I think that's where the confusion is. Jesus' Father is the supreme being. And also can be Mother, again, it's multiple forms. I was trying to send a message. I can't figure it out. I love walking. I hope my legs come back. I'm walking while riding bicycles. That's all I was doing all those years. It made them crazy because I could ride a bicycle and walk. Because everybody says everybody's going to be raped. I mean, really, that's how they are if they were telling the truth. I mean, it's psycho. All right, there's spirit attack. I don't know how the battery fell. Well, it did. Whew. Still a little humid. Still a little warm. But I'm loving it. Loving it! Humpty, humpty, hump. I guess that could sound perverted if an FBI agent wanted it to sound perverted, but it actually, hump means walk. Yeah, that's what they do to your minds. Thank you, buddy. Still hasn't rained yet. Doing my podcast, broadcasting. So I just was speaking to the parable of the sheep and the goats, man. Like for a while, my life used to track like that all the time because God had more ability to steer my life. And I'd meet people and they would be like somebody in the Bible, but yet a modern counterpart. Similar to the transgender, because I told him about the transgender women. I said, weirdest thing on earth. I went to the church. The church betrayed me. They were working with the police, the CIA, and everyone else trying to kill me. Set me up. And then the government itself was blocking me from being able to speak to Filipino women. He would rape them. No, they call that marriage and, wedding night sex. It's not called rape. That's how freakish they are. But yet they're the ones that run around getting women drunk and sexed up with their bullshit. And I said, yeah, there's these transgender women, and I met them online because there was nobody else to talk to. And they started saying, I'm praying for you. Have faith. You'll be healed. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is God's doing this. But this part of it, again, they don't get credit for that happening. God made it something so I could understand. Thank you, buddy. It wasn't only one. It was at least two, possibly three. I can't remember exactly. I'm sure if I spoke to more of them, they would have done the same thing. So again, the Catholic Church realized that, 10 years later? Or at least a portion of the church. He was down on the Catholic Church because they're so judgmental. And I said, but yeah, there are people now that understand. Well, what makes their sin worse than yours? And again, the Bible is structured in such a manner that if you condemn transgender people, then you stepped over the line or now an abomination. So, again, that's like a sin squared or sin to the millionth power. So again, the Bible is a very interesting scripture if it lives. It dies in these churches that are really the synagogue of Satan. Well, that's why Paul says just engage in charity. But you won't let me. So then God said, well, you got to come out of that part, and now you have to be angel of vengeance. Because they won't let you do anything that it says in the Bible. You're supposed to find a woman, then fornication flees. And they know it. Actually, they know it without reading the Bible. That they block you from a woman. And if you're sexually turned on, you have to take care of it, or it's going to wreck your body and your mind. Actually, a lot of their women are so whacked because they are celibate. I did a study. Believe me, I did a study. And again, God had to do a lot of it, but that's what it is. They can't relax because it relaxes the body, and they know that too. So they're trying to get people not to be sexual so they can up the stress in their body. But yet, what they do when they also try, again, they're doing all of this. They try to wire to it to trigger it. So like if you're in a store, what they're trying to do is take stress, and the only way to relieve the stress is sexual. So again, self-gratification or something like that. So then they'll try to wire it in the store. And if you don't do it, they still say you might be doing it. I mean, it's that sick. Like when they try to hint that about me, they're actually mad because I'm not doing it. They're angry because I'm not doing it. They're that sick, man. So again, they knew not to let me near a woman because it wouldn't work. Again, they also have a worksheet or whatever, or the computer figures you to be a risk or something. So what they're doing is they're constantly putting things in your life that would make you risky, even if it's just falsely analyzed. And they're not letting things in your life that would take you out of that category, such as being married, going to church, that kind of thing.
DoorDash? You go to DoorDash?
No, I'm not looking for DoorDash. What room are you looking for?
115.
The building, that's building 1. Yeah, it sounds like it's on this side. Wait, actually, wait, is it the same room? Yes, same room. I think it's this one over here. All right, right here. All right, DoorDash man. Yeah, that guy gets stuff all the time. I think he smokes and gets high, and then he orders food. He gets off work, gets high, smiles all the time after that, and then orders food. Walks around with a stupid smile on his face. Oh, you look happy. How you doing? That guy looked like working. Pretty big guy. He's just got a nice woman. He's so lucky he got that woman. So lucky. Such a nice, pleasant woman. I mean, I'm sure she has her days. They fight every so often, but again, she's down to earth. I haven't found somebody like her in a long time. Well, the dude looks like about working size. Well, it's sad because that's the kind of woman I wanted to find and just enjoy life. I mean, it didn't even involve, I don't have to have sex. Eventually that probably would lead there if we got married and all that, but, go out and have a good life and just be happy spending time together. So happy together. They know that's the truth, man. They try to say that's my fraud. They were going to bring me out and show everybody who I was by torturing me for the next 30 years. I mean, it's insane to even say that's what they're doing. I mean, it's so freaking evil. They should just be puking on the ground all day for it. Don't make me seal it. I couldn't do it unless God told me to. Anyway. Not like that. I don't do things on my own. Well, they know it's God too. They just want to. They're just in absolute and utter denial, satanic denial. There's that train. It looks like the storm clouds are starting to come in. Still slow because it's still like no storm clouds south of here in Oak Park. It's supposed to rain, but some areas it might not rain till later, and then in the middle of the night, I guess in the morning. So I was in my new apartment to enjoy the rain. So again, they said they're full of shit. They give you false psychology to begin with, but then they also falsely analyze something. Anybody that was in the government, again, let's say even somebody fresh that hasn't been tortured for 20, 30 years. They would be unnerved to think that they were manipulating their housing. I mean, you know how much cartels would pay to take me out? And probably have paid. They're probably greasing the chief's palm here today. I mean, this is real, man. We're not here to play respecter of persons. Nice, shiny badge. Ooh. I mean, the crap I've seen with badges, it just ain't even worth it. Oh, well. I like to use my other microphones. So I figured out if I want to use my Surface Pro with my one set of USB mics, the only way to make it fully functional is with a certain hub. I don't even think the other hub works. So that's where I went wrong. I kept using this other hub or no hub. Right. For For some reason, it can block whatever's blocking it to work. You know, it has enough architecture within it to make the signal go right. So apparently they're saying that, what's that guy's name again? Smith? Can't remember his first name. Oh no, Justice Department's doing something wrong. But they say he's got another case in New Jersey that he can just go bink. And it would definitely work there. Right. There's probably a third case somewhere. But I don't know how long that would take to put together. So Trump's not living the life of leisure that he wishes he could live. And it's his own fault. Double crosser, acceptor of the mark of the beast. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.